Yes, students, please reply. Can you guys see the screen? Okay, coming back to the class. In the previous session, we had seen the decision tree analysis, how it can affect the profits. Okay, this is very much important. We have like I'm in the last comparison stage. Okay, there were basically three options which are given to you for having a warehouse. The first one, all warehouse pays for spot market. Spot market in the sense the price that is presently going on. So every year, the price may increase or decrease, but 90 to 95% of the times it will increase, but rarely it will decrease. So that is the first option. Second option, lease of 1 lakh square feet for 3 years. Okay. So why? Because 1 lakh is the present what do you call it, the demand. So I'm not basically forecasting whether the demand is increasing or not, but what I'm doing is present whatever demand I'm having, I'm going to continue it for next 3 years, and any subsequent space if it is required, what I'll do is I'll pay at the current spot price or the spot market price. Okay, that is what is the second option. Third option, flexible lease to use between 60,000 and 100,000 square feet. So here I am making a deal with the owner of that particular warehouse or the space where I am paying upfront $10,000, stating that I'll be using somewhere between 60,000 to 1 lakh square feet with the amount of $1 per square feet. Okay, in the sense I'll be minimum paying $60,000 per year, plus I'll be taking, if any requirement, more requirement of space is there, like up to 1 lakh square feet, that is another 40,000 square feet more, and at the same price, that is $1 per square feet. So I can take like tomorrow, for example, say now it is 60,000. Tomorrow I needed around 2,000 square feet extra. So what I'll do, I am using 62,000 square feet and I'll be paying 62,000 and not 1 lakh dollars. Okay, so that's how it works here. And above this 1 lakh, if anything, it goes beyond 1 lakh square feet, what I'm doing is I am paying at spot price. Okay, we saw the regions for 3 years it is given period 0, period 1, and period 2. For period 0, if we move to the period 1 next, that is the first year. After this particular year, we are moving to the next year. There, if you see, there were four nodes that were generated because we had two different parameters. One was demand and the other was price, where it was increasing and decreasing at a particular rate with a particular what you call probability. Okay, with a particular probability, price was increasing or decreasing, demand was increasing or decreasing. So we had four nodes from one node from present period 0 to the period 1. From period 1 to the next period, period 2, we had four further nodes in each particular node from period 1. Okay, and they were overlapping. So in the period 2 we got 9 different nodes. So this, what we did was, we had seen the future cash flows. Okay, then the present value of future cash flows, the profits basically. So these are the value, the value is the profits basically. So in the first case we are having profit of $5,471. The second one 38,364, and the third one 46,725. So just imagine how important it is. So I'm again repeating this as to get the continuation. Okay, and for the students who are not present, okay, this is a detailed what do you call evaluation of decision tree. Okay, how decision tree helps you in making decision, and like even it helps in basically forecasting based on a particular probability and percentage, or what you call the decrease of the profits or the demand, not profits, demand, basically increase or decrease of the demand. So in normal conditions, what happens is, in you might have studied some statistical tools where you are forecasting. Okay, I don't know whether you have come across in your engineering subjects. Okay, so there is something called as forecasting, where we foresee the coming demand in the future years. It could be for only 1 year, it could be for next month, it could be for a quarter, it could be for half yearly or yearly, or it may go to multiple years also. Okay, this is forecasting. So how this forecasting is done? It is based on the previous data that is there with me. Like for example, if I am having data of last 8 to 10 months, so can I forecast the data for the next coming month? Yes, that can be done. Okay, so there are various methods of doing so, but in decision tree, so there what happens is based on the previous data, if it is continuously increasing, it will increase. If continuously decreasing, it will decrease. So if there are variations, okay, so there are different methods using like trying to eliminate those variations and getting to a value which could be predicted or which could be very near to the future demand basically. Okay, so but there is only one value that you are getting. Okay, so here in this case, in decision tree, we are getting both the sides. That is, if it is increasing or if it is decreasing. So we are not in somewhere in between. Okay, so we are evaluating both because lot of money is invested here. As in manufacturing, okay, the forecasting is done. Based on that, arrangements are done. Okay, arrangements in the sense, okay, I would be requiring so much of raw material, so much of machinery, so much of manpower and all. In the initial stages, it may not be that much of requirement, but in terms of warehouse or something, where you are leasing it or taking it on rent for certain period of time, okay, it has to be done at a time. So the forecast should be done properly. Okay, so that is what we have seen here. So just see the difference: 5,000, 38,000, and 46,000. Okay, so this 46,000 is we have excluded the $10,000 which was supposed to be paid. Okay, upfront. In the sense I told you right in the initially, if I want a flexible lease, I have to pay $10,000 upfront. So including like excluding that. So if you include that, the total profit will be 56,000. Okay, 56,725 dollars. So just imagine 5,000 and 50,000, 10 times the value is 10 times difference. Okay, so when there is 10 times difference, so how many more warehouses you could have taken for rent? Just for an example, I'm telling. So as much as required, that much only will take. Okay, so this is the value of the decision tree. Okay, then next, setting up multi-location inventory management. So we are coming up to the multi-location inventory management. What does this tell you? So we are having, as the name says, multi-location. So we are having inventory in multiple places, in many places. Okay, so why this is required and how to do it. Okay, what are the challenges? So we are looking in this particular segment. Okay, it is a tough task for many growing manufacturers, especially if they also have production sites spread across the land. In the sense, we have seen like in a particular area, or it could be all over the globe, or in some countries. Okay, so if you are selling your product, okay, in many countries, or if you are getting your raw materials from many countries, okay, so you are importing your raw material or some part of your product basically which requires importing, or like you are exporting if you are selling it to in many countries. So what happens here? So if your production unit is in India and you want to sell it to multiple countries, so what will happen? So many a times in the initial conditions or initial times, what you do, you export it from India to the place of demand or the country of demand. Okay, from India it goes directly there. But over a period of time, as the inventory, not the inventory, as the demand increases, okay, you cannot send most of it from India. It will be very costly for you. Okay, so like lead time we had discussed about the lead time. So if you are taking sea route, it may take some number of weeks, not days. It will take number of weeks to go and reach there. Then from that particular port to your location, it takes a lot of time because there are so many things like custom clearance. Then so whether your location is near the sea or near the port or far from it, there again one more transportation has to be arranged. It has to go to your uh, like company or the warehouse. Okay, so this much of additional time is required if we are transporting from one country to another country. Okay, so if the demand is high, what people do is they'll set up their warehouse there. Okay, they'll set up their warehouse or a factory over there. Okay, stating that why? Because they are having a lot of demand in that particular region or in that particular country. So in those cases, we will be needing a multi-location inventory management. Okay, multi-location. So as I gave example, it would be raw materials also. So it is not that all the raw materials that is required, I'll be getting it only on one shipment. I may make a warehouse in that particular country where I'm getting my uh, raw material. Okay, so for example, if I buy in bulk, economies of scale, I explained, as and when you're manufacturing more, or as and when you're buying more, the price decreases. So that is what we call it as retail and wholesale. So what is this? So the product is the same, but the difference here is only the quantity that we buy. Okay, in retail we can buy one quantity of the product, but in wholesale we need to buy in multiples. So it depends what kind of product it is, whether you have to buy two, three, five, or in dozens, okay, or in hundreds, or in thousands, or in lots. Okay, we never know. It is based on the product. But when you are going for a wholesale buy, it is like you are buying in more quantity. Because you are buying in more quantity, the price reduces. Okay, so similarly here, even in the raw materials, if you are exporting also, so what happens if you are buying at a retail price? Okay, if you are buying at a retail price, it will be very costlier for you as you are the manufacturer and not the end user. So you need to make some profits out of it, right? So what you do, you try to get it at a wholesale price. Okay, wholesale price, as you need to buy it at a larger quantity. So if you buy at a larger quantity, it may not be feasible to send all that in one go to the manufacturing facility. Okay, because there might be space constraints in the manufacturing facility also. So what they do, they will be having a warehouse. Okay, they'll keep it in the warehouse, and as and when required, in the optimum quantity, it will be sent to the manufacturing unit. Okay, that's how it is done. So we are having multiple inventory there as well. Okay, so as we are catering to many sites all across the land, there again it could be all across the different countries or across the globe. So one of the main obstacle to taking your business to the next level is always going to be a matter of space. Okay, so if you want to increase, so you need space. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, you need space. So what is this space all about? Where like we gave the example of the warehouse. So it could be factory also. If you are increasing your business or increase your production, you need to have more number of what do you call the machineries. So if more machineries are there, more number of people you want to maintain those particular machineries or use those machineries, unless you are going for an automation. Okay, so nowadays even this particular thing you might be knowing way better than me, because you are learning those particular subjects like automation and all, where very few people are required to manage a entire factory, a very big factory, because of the automation, where you have to just feed some information in a particular system which takes care of the entire production process. Only thing is you need to make sure adequate amount of raw materials are present there. If not, it will fail again. Okay, so this is how it works. Then whether you have decided to take your operation global or even just require extra storage. Okay, it is very likely that at some point you will encounter issues of multi-location inventory management. So however you try to manage with only one location, there is a particular time. Okay, when you reach, you will be needing a multiple locations for inventory. Okay, so you are cramming up most of the items in one single inventory, but there will be a time where even cramming up that particular space will not be enough to store your products. As and when your business starts scaling up, it becomes bigger and bigger, it becomes multifold. Okay, at that time you have to go to multiple locations to have it. So in the initial phase, like if it was one, you do it two, then after certain period of time you'll make it two, three, because as and when your business is growing, it might be only in one country, or as I told, multiple countries. You started exporting. Okay, so exporting is well and good, but the demand there also, if it is increasing, you need to have your inventory over there, because as and when demand comes, you need to supply. If you are not able to supply it, there will be some different whatever competitors of yours who will be coming over there, because they see the demand. So they'll come over there. If you are not able to supply your product when there is a demand, so they move to your competitor's product. Okay, to avoid this, what we do, we keep the inventory there as well. Okay, it may not be very large, but a certain amount, like for example, some 20 or 30 units of my product is being sold in a particular um, month in a particular country, or in a particular place of a particular country. So what we do, we keep additional of 10 or 20 numbers, okay, as a buffer. So we may never know. Suddenly there might be increase in the demand due to word of mouth. Again, this is word of mouth is when something you buy and you feel it is good, okay, and you think that your friend also should buy it, okay, because even he was in the requirement of whatever you have bought. So you will suggest him, you will call him and say, yeah, I have bought this particular product and it is very good, so why don't you buy it? Okay, so something like this, it happens. This is word of mouth. So this could be positive word of mouth or negative word of mouth as well. So in general, it is called as word of mouth. As a person experiences something, and it will be spread throughout. Okay, without any intervention of the company. If I am producing something, if some person feels it is good, so without me telling him to further tell it to someone else or further spread it, so he himself does without me coming in between or without me influencing him to do so. Okay, so whether it is a positive news or the negative news, so this is like spreads like anything. So if something of that kind happens and there is an increase in 20% sales, okay, so you need to be able to sell that. Okay, in the sense, how, when will you do that? When you have that particular product with you. So if you feel that okay, around 20 to 30 products are going per month, so I'll be having 32 products, that may not work. So you may need a little bit more than that, or I cannot buy exactly 30 number of products, 30 are going, I'll be needing 30 only. So if the variation happens over there, if it decreases, well and good, you will be having your product with you. You can sell it in the next month. But if the product demand is more and it is not there with you, what happens? You are losing the opportunity. We are calling this as opportunity loss. Okay. So I don't know, in any of your semesters, you will be studying statistics or operations research. Some of you, okay, there, these all terms you will encounter about the uh, opportunity or the opportunity loss and all. What is this opportunity loss? You had the opportunity to sell, but due to certain conditions or due to not availability of the product, you were not able to sell that particular product. Okay, so because of this, you lost the opportunity of getting that profit of selling or increasing your sales or selling that particular product. Okay, so this is the lost opportunity or opportunity loss. Then you are going to have difficulties managing stock and how it moves around, especially if you also have manufacturing at multiple locations too. So why people fear of having all these things? Because they need to maintain inventories. They need to manage inventories in, if they are having both or multiple locations. So as many locations they have, it would be that much of difficulty that they would be facing. So with different inventories, if there are different locations where this particular manufacturing of the product happens, that means there will be orders from both or multiple factories. Okay, so you need to make sure that you don't goof up in between, like sending a certain material to factory 1, it should not be sent to factory 3 or factory 4. Okay, the product that has to be sent to factory 1 has to be sent to factory 1 only. Okay, so to do this, we'll see what all could be done. So these are some of the difficulties, because you don't have the experience of handling multiple locations of inventories. Okay, and again sending it, it will be further more difficult if you have to send it to multiple locations. Okay, at the same time, if the inventory is of only one product, not an issue. Okay, if there are multiple products that you need to basically store and has to be sent as and when it is in requirement of, it is bit difficult. So I'm not saying it is impossible or anything. So it is possible. There are many companies who do it. Okay. So but it is difficult because you are not having the experience of doing so. Okay. As a person who is owning it. Then why do businesses need multi-inventory management? So we came to why. So why businesses need multi-inventory management? We are seeing some of the things here like syncing with manufacturing, outsourcing manufacturing, so outsourced manufacturing, lean manufacturing, risk management, potential to lower cost, retail outlet, and retail or reseller inventory. So what are these? Sync with manufacturing. So many manufacturing businesses find themselves spread out across multiple manufacturing sites. Okay, due to the availability of skilled labor. Why is this? Why? There are many places where you start your manufacturing. So the parameters that are like the availability of skilled labor, rent or costs, and even direct access to consumers. So these are the major things where you are having skilled labors. Okay, so a certain particular work is there where you need skilled labors, and you need to check for multiple places or places where you are having those skilled labors. Okay, so that's why if you see Indian government, it has come up with Skill India. So you might have heard of this Skill India. What is this? They are basically imparting skill to people, so that they can go out and start their own venture. This is basically we are boosting the entrepreneurship. Okay, we are boosting the entrepreneurship where one person can learn that particular skill. Okay, he can go and start his own uh, firm, or he can start his own unit basically. Okay, he can start his own factory. So these particular skill India, it could be in a variety of what you call variety of mm skills, I could say. Like for example, from carpentry to installation of solar panels. Okay, just see how wide it is. So in between that, it could be electrical, uh, like production of electrical instruments or fitting of electrical instruments. Okay, so from there it starts. It could be like they are even teaching you softwares. Okay, like CAD, AutoCAD, then whatever software you use in your particular engineering, even those training are being given with respect to the work which will be done using that particular software. Okay, here in general in engineering, we will be not in a position to tell basically where you will go and work after your engineering. So in general, you have to learn more than that is required, and even you are not in a position to say where you will be, okay, after a certain period of years, okay, or just after your engineering is complete. Okay, in which company are you going to work, and what out of your learning of 4 years of engineering you will be applying over there. Okay, so there are so many subjects you learn. I think around 46 to 50 subjects, different subjects, and these are just the introduction to those different areas of your study basically. So you can further go ahead and work on those or study on those particular different subjects. So there is that is where you go to your master's degree. You will take one of the subjects, okay, out of whatever subjects you have learned, and you will further go in deep and learn about it. That is what is the master's degree next. So in the present scenario I'm explaining. Okay, so you are in your degree. So there are so many different introductions. Okay, I can call them as the introductions to those subjects. Okay, you are not basically going into much of depth into all these particular subjects. So if you want to pursue higher degree, so what is this? What is higher degree? We are basically picking one of the subject and we are studying that in detail. Okay, in detail in the sense again there is a limit for the depth. Okay, but now the area is concentrated. Okay, earlier it was what you call it was like a sun. Okay, so just like example, it was like a sun where everything was visible. Okay, everything was put under light, okay, of the sun. So next if you go ahead, so you can see it as a particular bulb, okay, at your home in one of the rooms. So it's like it is only focusing on that particular room, and if there is some space or anything, it may go up to the next room only. Okay, so that is what is focusing. Next further you can go up to torch. So torch in the sense again there is a beam where it again falls at a very small area than the light bulb. Okay, so your engineering is kind of a sun where it is showing you everything. Then you are deciding where to go. Then when you go over there is a light bulb which tells you which focuses on a certain part of that particular whole world. Okay, then when you look at the torch, it is focusing furthermore. So we can say it as a PhD or something. So there is furthermore, if you go ahead, like if you want to continue from torch, it will go up to laser or something. So just as an example, this will help you understand better. Okay, something like this, skilled labor. So if I want skilled labor in terms of software, so I need to check for a person who is having that particular knowledge. Plus, if you need experienced people also, again, just not skilled, skilled plus experience also matters. So where will I get such kind of people? So I'll be moving over there. Then our rent costs. Okay, there are skilled people, but the cost of having that manufacturing plant set up over there is very high. So people may not go over there. Okay, it is very difficult for them to pay those particular rents and generate enough profit. So usually what they do, they go to places where the rents or costs of land are less. Then even direct access to consumers. So consumers or customers, we can say. So in many of the places, they move to the place or move to a region where you are having lot of your customers. Taking into consideration again rent and skill labor, well, that is there, but now when you are coming to customers, so you need all the combination of it. So you may not be very far from your customers, okay, situated, unless you are a very big brand. Okay, if you are a very big brand and all the nook and corners of the world know your brand. Okay, like there are international brands, like for example football, if I take apparels like shoes, Nike. Okay, then Adidas. So these are the some of the brands in shoes where they are dealing with sports shoes, normal shoes. Okay, so this is kind of a company where if they don't have a manufacturing unit in a particular country, like in India, if any of the uh, shoes manufacturing company is not there. Okay, but they can sell it. Why? Because it's a well-known brand in that particular country. So if I say, okay, Adidas, they are not producing the shoes in India, but they are selling it. So will you be like interested to buy or no? Okay, as the company is good, you'll look at the price, you'll compare with other good brand products, and if you like everything, you'll buy it. Okay, so it is not like okay, there's something new that is coming into the market and you are hesitant to buy it. So that usually won't happen here. So especially if they are selling to a range of customers across state or national boundaries. So this is very much important. Like it is not only a particular state or a country that you are selling. So you are basically selling it to multiple states and multiple countries across borders of multiple states and countries. So at that particular moment of time, we need to have manufacturing sync. So to have this, we need to have multiple storage places again. Okay, then that means that you are also going to want somewhere to store your material. That's what I said. Store your materials in each of these locations. Otherwise, you would be constantly having to order materials in for each set of orders. In the sense, as and when order is coming, you want to manufacture. So if you want to manufacture, you need to have your raw materials. So you need to continuously call raw materials. If you are not having a small warehouse nearby your facility. Okay, for this we need to have multiple if multiple factories are there or multiple production units are there, we need to have multiple warehouses, just not to store the raw materials, to store the finished goods as well. So in the inventory it is not just the raw materials, it will be the finished goods also which is ready to be sold. As and when the order comes, it could be sold to them. Okay, then outsource manufacturing. So what is this? What is outsource manufacturing? There is a limited set of companies that have the resources to totally manufacture their products globally. Okay, so limited set of companies. So here in the sense, what do you mean by the total manufacture. So in this case, if you are producing something, so from the raw material to the finished products, everything happens in your facility only. But it is very rare that you have the complete or total manufacturing of the product in one manufacturing unit, okay, or one person doing it. So it is always like you are giving some of the parts or some of the processes outside. So this is called as outsourcing. We are outsourcing, or we are taking the help of other companies to get our work done. Okay, it will be a part of our manufacturing process. Okay, but it is not done by me, the manufacturer. It will be outsourced. It is done by someone else, and it is brought to my location where it is assembled and it is being sold. Okay, so you might have seen in the present scenario of mobiles and all, when because we have this particular issue with China. Okay, so most of the things which used to come from China, so there is a particular import tariff. Okay, and people are saying that boycott Chinese products. So what China did was they started especially the phones. Okay, they started the manufacturing, not manufacturing, assembling basically. So they used to manufacture at their place. Okay, in any of the countries, it could be in China or neighboring countries. Then it used to be sent to India for assembling, and they used to put assembled in India. Okay, that means you are basically masking that it is being produced in elsewhere, and it is just being integrated or just being assembled in this particular country. So there are many people, they just see China and they won't buy. Now, okay, assembled in India. This is made in India product. Okay, this is just assembled in India. So the people who are knowing about this, learned, they will be understanding the difference of manufactured in India and assembled in India. Okay, so this is what we are saying. So even the big companies like Apple and all, so if you open the Apple iPhones, so those who use it, so it is very difficult to open. Okay, but if you want to repair it, yes, there are people who repair it, so they have to open the back panel and all. Okay, when they open it, you can see. So there are many. I think many of you know there are many parts of Apple iPhone that are being manufactured by Samsung. Okay, so again, these people are not manufacturing their own products. Okay, they are getting the products from Samsung. They are basically assembling it. There will be some products that they are also doing they are also doing it, like the software and other important parts. Okay, and again the camera and all, if you see, it is being brought from different people who are like pioneers in manufacturing the cameras. Okay, so they are getting it from there, and they are just assembling it. They are giving them the specifications of the camera. I need it in this particular dimensions. It should fit like this. This is the basic dimension of a camera. Then those particular people who are manufacturing it, they'll manufacture it. They'll send it to the iPhone facility. So as and when this particular parts come, they are basically assembled at one different place. So this is what is outsourcing. Okay, then there are plenty of businesses that outsource manufacturing to companies domestically and abroad. Okay, it is this outsourcing is just not done in local also. It could be done abroad also to different countries. This is when we are saying of different countries. This happens when you don't have a particular technology in your country. Okay, or the technology is available, but it is very costlier due to the number of products that a particular the number excuse me, the number of orders that you place. Okay, because if the numbers are less, I told you, economies of scale you cannot achieve. If you are manufacturing, or if you are having that technology, the products that require, okay, are in a large quantity, then the price decreases. Otherwise what happens, the price will increase. Even the manufacturing of that particular product in that particular region might be greater than importing it. Why? Because of the uh, quantity that you are in requirement of. Okay, so if you are producing around 200 mobile phones in a month, so you'll be ordering 200 in a month. Okay, or maximum 210 or 220. But a major producer, okay, where many he is supplying to many different manufacturers, he might be producing in terms of thousands or lakhs. Why? Because I am only one of the person who is buying. Like me, there are hundreds of manufacturers who buy from him. Okay, so at that time he is achieving the economies of scale, and he could give you that particular product or manufacture it at a cheaper price. Okay, so that's why even you like go to source, or you get things done in different countries also. It could be the technology, it could be the type of machines, it could be the type of work, it could be the number of what do you call, number of working hours, okay, or number of production capacity in a particular duration, okay, and even the cost. Okay, so even the cost, why, like you might have seen the many manufacturing companies, they have one of the units in many countries, like the Asian countries. Why is this? Like Singapore, Indonesia, then India, China, because of the cost of labor. In the sense, we are having very cheap labor here, so when compared to other countries. Okay, and even the laws that govern the land, even that is very important. Here in many countries, there are a lot of people who are ready to work at a lesser wage, because the availability is more and the demand is less. So what happens? The price decreases. So here, as the population is too much, people are ready to work at lower income. Okay, or when you are, if you are paying them less also, they are ready to work, because the demand of labor is less and the supply is more. Okay, that's why the cost of labor in these particular countries is less. Then ideally, you want to be in a position where you cannot only track the inventory and production status of your partners, but also purchase materials from them too. In the sense, if you are selling, okay, to many people, okay, in multiple places like retailers, so at a period of time you need to even monitor their inventory also. Okay, so it's not that many a times it so happens that as and when the inventory is less, the retail shop owner, okay, he comes and contacts the manufacturer for the product. But in many cases what happens, the manufacturer only contacts the retailers. Okay, why? Because many a times it so happens that the deal between the manufacturer and the retailer would be, I will give you the product. The manufacturer says, I will give you the product, I will provide you the product to be sold. Okay, you pay me after it is being sold. Okay, many a times for new products and all this happens. Okay, so this is kind of what you call a strategy, where you are making the retailer to keep your products. You tell him that okay, you can keep your product. Okay, you can keep my product in your store, and you can pay me as and when it is being sold. So I don't want payment. I give you the product, and I'm not taking the price or the amount for that particular product now only. Okay, or there will not be a particular credit period, I mean defined credit period like 15 days or 20 days. So as you have said, it's a new product, it is uncertain to move. Many times what happens, you tell him as and when you sell it, you can give me the money. So in this particular time, what you need to do is, the manufacturer has to monitor how many units have been sold. So it could be per day, per week, per month. Okay, so he has to check, because as and when the products are sold, he will be getting the money. So he needs to have that particular more effort of going and checking the products on the shelves of the retailers. Okay, so this is how uh, people work. Okay, or a particular uh, supply chain works when a new product is introduced. Okay, so this is one of the strategies. This is outsourcing manufacturing. Then lean manufacturing. So there are no what you call mechanical students here. They would be learning this lean manufacturing. I don't know other branches of engineering have this or no, lean manufacturing. So what is lean? We'll see in this particular paragraph down here. So multiple sites can often be a part of one single production line. So how this happens? Multiple sites. Just a minute, students. Multiple sites can often be a part of one single production line. So how is this? So you are manufacturing different parts at different places, then you are getting it in one place and assembling it. Okay, this is how you are having multiple sites being a part of single production line. So example you can see like building a car. Okay, you have your seats and engines built in one factory, and those sub assemblies are sent to another location to be fitted into the car. So when you are making a small part of a bigger machine, so we call them as sub assemblies. Okay, so you are assembling some things over there. So it is not that engine is only one part. So there are so many sub parts that go into an engine. So similarly seats, so it's not a single unit. So there are many things that go into manufacturing of seat. So for the person who is manufacturing only engine or a seat, that could be the end product of that particular plant or for him. Okay, but it is a small part of the assembly for the whole car. Okay, so those are called as sub assemblies, because assembly is required for engine also and seat also, but it is a sub part of something big. So that's why we call them as sub assemblies of a car. Okay, so these are sent to another location to be fitted into the car. So many places, many things are produced, but they are the part of one production line. So what is the end product here? It is the car. Okay, so producing at different places, getting it to one place and assembling it. So this is one of it. Then the idea being that sub assemblies are rarely stored for longer periods. In the sense, as and when the order comes, there's a particular lead time to produce it. So as and when that particular time is over, or as and when your production is over, you are basically sending it to the assembly plant. Okay, that is what they are telling. The idea being that sub assemblies are rarely stored for longer period of time. It would be like for the next week. Okay, for the order of the next week, you are producing now and keeping it here. So next week could be after 2 days or 3 days or 4 days. So only that period you are storing it. As and when you are getting the order, or the order might already be there with you. So, but only thing is you need to send it at that particular time. To send it at particular time, you need to have it with you, right? You need to like prepare it or produce it and keep it, the finished product, your product, which is a sub assembly to someone else. So as and when he says, okay, the time comes, he says every Monday I need 10 engines, for example. So you need to wait for that Monday. So to wait for Monday, you cannot start on Sunday to produce. So if it is a product that could be produced in one day, well and good. If not, you have to start early. So if you start early, you may not be able to produce all the 10 engines at a single period of time, in the sense at once. Okay, so that it is ready and it goes off. So it is like you are taking some time. So you finish one, then you go to the next one. You finish one, you go to the next one. So like this, I need to finish 10 engines. Then I have to send it on Monday. So if I am having everything ready, I'll just wait for Monday. As and when Monday comes, I will uh, transfer it to the assembly plant. Okay, this is known as a lean manufacturing. So you can see here the idea being that sub assemblies are rarely stored for longer periods and almost always on the move. Okay, they will be moving to the next workstation. So where next work happens, it moves over there. This approach is also known as lean manufacturing. Listen, we don't keep my product for a longer period of time, or I'll produce only when I'm getting the order. So one more example I can give you, like if you go to buy any of the cars or bikes which is in demand. So if you go there and if you ask the person over there, so what he might say? He might tell you, okay, he might show you there could be some vehicles kept over there. He could take you over there and he could explain what is what and how it works. Okay, what kind of interiors, exteriors, what kind of parts, and what are the services will be provided. Okay, with those particular cars and all. So everything is explained. Then you will ask him, so when can I get the car? At that time, he will tell you there is a waiting period, sir. So there is a waiting period for around 2 months, 3 months, 30 days, 15 days. Okay. So there was a time like not recently, I could say, because of Corona and all. Before Corona, uh, around 6, 7 months back, before Corona, if you see, if you want to buy a motor vehicle, okay, So I'll tell you the name also, Royal Enfield. So any of the products of Royal Enfield bikes. So the waiting period was somewhere around 3 months to 6 months. There was my cousin who wanted to buy it. Okay, he went and he saw and he booked. Again, you cannot just go after 6 months and get it. Okay, you need to pre-order it by paying a certain amount upfront. Okay, that means you are booking your vehicle. So after booking only, you have to wait for that particular time. If you say that okay, I will wait for another 2 months, then I'll go to book. So 2 months are further added. It's not like 6 months you'll get it. If they say 6 months, you go after 2 months, they'll not give you in 4 months. See, when they say 6 months, you need to wait for next 6 months again. So it's like that. So he waited for around 3 months, 3 to 3.5 months, where the dealer said, "Okay, sir, you need to wait. As and when the bike comes, it will be informed to you." But this guy, like every second week or third week, he used to call the dealer and ask him whether my bike has come or not, because he was that excited to buy that particular bike. So similarly, lean manufacturing happens. So as and when earlier it was like they used to produce and they used to store a particular at a particular place, so that as and when the order comes, the uh, bikes or cars are being sold. But now that is not the case. So people don't want to have inventories because that's a dead stock unless it is sold. It is dead money over there. It is calling, the money is basically kept in the godown. Okay, you cannot use it unless you sell that particular product. So what the manufacturing company does, it waits for the order. As and when the order comes, a particular lead time is given. So within that, the particular product is produced and it is being sold. So this is what is lean manufacturing. Okay. So to have lean manufacturing also, we need multiple warehouses. Okay. Inventories to be kept at multiple places. Then risk management. This is very important. Okay, there is a lot on the line when you put all your inventory into a single warehouse. Okay, in the sense why we say this a lot on the line, in the sense, okay, so you need to be very careful because whatever inventory you have, you are putting it in one place only. So okay, next you can see any problem that occurs with transport. Okay, in the sense there is a transport strike now. Okay, so your particular warehouse is in a faraway place, like around 50 kilometers or 60 kilometers away, and there's a transport strike. So you need a certain raw material or a part which is being kept in a particular warehouse. It is very difficult to get because there is a transport strike. Okay, or even unlikely event of a fire that could drastic effects on the business, that could have drastic effects on the business. In a sense, all the things that you have, you have kept it in one place. If there is a mishap that like fire happens, so you are losing all of it. So similarly, at times of heavy rains and floods are there. So if it is a product that basically like will not be having life if water enters in or if there's a lot of moisture. So in that case, the whole of your warehouse or the products that you have kept in the warehouse goes like waste, because it will not be in a proper condition when water enters. Okay, or as I told you, transport strike, so you will not be able to transport it. So it is safe to keep your products in multiple places. Okay, then having a backup location for inventory mitigates that risk and means that you have a fallback option in unfortunate circumstances. That means you are not losing your entire lot and you will not come on roads because everything would be there in that godown only. So if you have one more, so some things could be kept over there also. So you are reducing your loss in terms of like fire hazard or water hazard. So not only that, there are many things. Okay, so I'm just giving you example of fire and water hazard. So you are not in loss of all of the products. So something is there with you to again move ahead. So you cannot avoid the losses that has happened, but you can minimize the loss by having multiple backup options. Then potential to lower cost. Okay, so just by looking at okay multiple locations, I have to pay multiple what you call rent. I have to keep many people to manage those particular warehouses at multiple places. On a first look, you could think it in that way. Okay, but many a times it may show up that it is reducing your price. How? We'll see. On first look, setting up of a secondary warehouse might seem counterintuitive. Okay, when it comes to reducing cost. If you want to reduce cost, if you are going for a second warehouse, okay, or multiple warehouses. So as I told you, you need to pay the rent unless you own the place. So for owning the place also you need to pay money. So basically the costs are increasing. So on a general sense, if you look, we say that the costs are increasing, but that's not the case. So consider the fact that the cost of transportation and labor can be much higher. Okay, so if you say, okay, if you have two factories where 50 and 50 people are working, it is very easy to manage it than one factory where 100 people are working. Okay, the facility has to be provided to all the 100 people. Like for example, canteen cannot be very small. Okay, so if you can send the people in shifts, not an issue to have lunch, but it cannot be very small. Like only 10 people cannot have food. Like 10 times they need to come. Okay, like for example, it could be like two or three shifts is fine. Okay, people can wait for half an hour or like per shift. I'm talking about like 1 hour or 1.5 hour maximum if you are taking 2 to 3 shifts. Okay, but if you have 10 shifts, like people take around at least 15 to 20 minutes to have their lunch or dinner if it is a night shift or something, right? So you cannot have 10 in the sense 5 hours they need to wait. So they wait for their turn to have lunch. They could end up in dinner, having their lunch at the time of dinner. So this may not work. So for 100 people, you need to have a larger or bigger canteen. So just not canteen, it could be anything. It could be toilets. Okay, so the toilet should be bigger enough that they could accommodate many people. Okay, at a time. Because as human beings, it's not that we don't go to toilets or anything. The workers also go as and when the nature calls them. Okay, so it's not that they need to be there for 8 to 9 hours without peeing or anything. This is not possible. Okay, so you need to have a bigger even toilets and all. Why? Because there is some time where it is called as a break. So as and when break comes, there are people who rush to washrooms. Okay, so like the example of a movie theater, if you see, so as and when there is an intermission, people run to washrooms. Why? Because they were sitting in that particular cinema hall for a certain period of time now, 1.5 hour. We never know when they have gone to toilet or for peeing in the previous time. So it is like as and when there is a interval or a break in between a movie, people run to washrooms. Why? Because of this. So if you have to wait for a longer period of time, okay, so what happens? The movie will start again. So you are missing a particular part. So you'll say, okay, uh, like if the washroom is small, so you might say even, okay, I don't want to go there because if something like if I had to go to washroom, it is like it takes a lot of time. I'll miss movie as well as I need to tolerate that particular frustration of waiting in line. Okay, so as and when your facility becomes bigger and bigger, you need more space, more facilities. Okay, so again, water is a basic necessity. If there are 100 people, you cannot have only one tap or two taps. There should be many taps at multiple places. Okay, not only taps. I am talking about the filtration unit, okay, and distribution unit. So at multiple places you need to have, and multiple sources should be there, okay, where people can drink water. It could be like from bottle or from glass, okay, whatever. So as and when the number of people increases, the number of facilities should increase, which increases the cost. Instead, if you divide it, okay, a smaller one will also be enough for less number of people. So that is what I wanted to tell you. So, okay, infrastructure delivery. Consider the fact that the cost of transportation and labor can be much higher depending on the location of your warehouse. If you are further uh, far from consumers and delivery infrastructure, then there's going to be greater cost for you to incur. In the sense, if you are bit far from the manufacturing unit or your customers from the warehouse, so there is a lot of transportation cost that you need to bear. Okay, so if you have multiple locations, the products in multiple locations or warehouses at multiple locations, you can supply from the most nearest one. okay, to the customers or the factory as well. So we are saving in cost of transportation as well by having multiple uh, places to keep our inventory. Then retail outlet. Okay, many manufacturers and direct to consumer brands have found that selling stock in their own retail stores can bring in a whole new line of customers. In the sense, we call them as factory outlets. So you might have heard of factory outlets. In the sense, there is a factory and there is a small store which is outside that particular factory. Okay, this what happens is you are basically selling at a lower price because your transportation cost is reduced, your cost of distributor, there is some percentage of your profit will go to the distributor also, right? So you are avoiding all that, okay, and you are getting more profits if you have the retail outlets just outside your factory or as I told you factory outlets. So many of places you might have heard factory outlet. There is a factory outlet which is it sells at a very lower price or cheaper price. Okay, than your store nearby or your distributor if you are a retailer. So if it is a very nearby, people go and buy stuff at the factory outlet. So to have a factory outlet, I need to have multiple storage units again. So in a store, I need to store for like to supply in that store. I need to have some small again aggregation. In the sense, products, different products kept at one place. So as and when the product is complete, I need to put it in the shelf again. Okay. So I need to maintain multiple inventories. So this helps like this. So having multiple retail outlets from their own manufacturers only. So in many places you can see, okay, factory owned outlet, okay, factory owned store. So best example I could give you is when you come to our college, on the way you can see a HP petrol bunk which has opened recently in last 6 months or so. So you can see owned by HP. Okay, there is one more HP petrol bunk which is on the opposite lane, which is but on a diagonal way. Okay, so this what I'm telling you is after like towards Foundry cluster on the side of Foundry cluster, just after Foundry cluster. If you see, okay, while going to the college. So if you see, we are having a HP petrol bunk which is owned by HP and not a franchisee. Okay, so these are the outlets where the company has directly put the money and it is operated by company only. There is no middle person who is operating it. It is operated by the company itself. This means that they have to start inventory management at multiple locations, even if it is just for the finished goods purpose. Even if it is only finished goods, you need to keep them at a multiple locations. This is for the retail outlet. Next, retailer or resellers inventory. Excuse me, retailer or resellers inventory. So despite the rise of the direct to consumer business model, so direct to business consumer model in the sense the previous one, that is factory outlet I'm telling, where from the factory it directly goes to the consumer. Okay, consumer business model. Many manufacturers still use middlemen to sell the part of the inventory. Not all is being sold like that. It is very difficult to have or maintain many stores of the manufacturer. So what they do, they'll be having middlemen. So these middlemen could be distributors who are selling further to the retailers who are again further selling to the customers or the consumers. So these people are also required. So at that particular time, what happens? Still need middlemen to sell the part of the inventory. Most of the times, it's not needed for them to track inventory in these locations, but it does happen under certain circumstances. For example, I gave you the example of the product which is being sold or which is being given to the retailer, where he will pay me back after he is selling that particular product. That is thing is given here. If we have a consignment inventory arrangement with a reseller, in which case they only pay after the stock after it is sold. Okay, they will pay for the stock after it is sold. So as and when, like for example, weekly I'll go there, I'll check how many bottles. Like for example, water bottles. This happens lot of with water bottles because new companies come into market, and nowadays people are not ready to drink water here and there because of corona and other stuff. So if you go to have some chats or anything. So you could have seen water bottles kept there now. Earlier there was not there. There could be is some pot or something or some vessel he could have kept for drinking water. But nowadays people are like going towards more of hygienic way of life, and they are very careful of not drinking and eating uh, where they don't feel it is fresh or where cleanliness is not maintained. So water is one of it where the food is good, but they may think that water may not be good. Okay, so even in these places you are getting small half-liter water bottles where 99.99, I'm not telling just 99, it is 99.99% where a particular person who is selling those particular bottles will be paying the person who is giving the bottles to them after those bottles are sold. It's not that okay, I'm giving you around dozen of bottles now, you pay me after 5 days or 6 days. It's not that. So after 5 days or 6 days, he'll come to get the money only for those bottles which are being sold. Okay, it's not that okay, he came, all the 12 amount of the 12 bottles are given to the manufacturer. No, if 6 bottles are sold, the money related to 6 bottles are only given. Okay, if only 2 bottles are sold, money related to 2 bottles are only given. So those who know about this or those who are around these things will be knowing this. Okay, so water bottle, especially in the small what you call chat centers, they don't afford because giving money and keeping it. First of all, you might have seen the space is very small to them. The place what they sell or where they prepare also is very small. Okay, and on top of that they need to keep water. Okay, so it is very difficult for them. So to make them keep your product, this is one of the strategy where it is said that okay, you can keep my water bottles, you can pay me as and when those bottles are basically sold. So this happens. So this is what we are telling here. So again, as a manufacturer, I need to keep uh, focus on how much of my product is sold at the reseller's place. So a retailer is a reseller only. He is buying from me and is selling again further. So I need to make sure that he is selling or he is focusing on selling my product. So there might be one more water company who might approach him and say, the same, you can keep my product also. So if he says, okay, I'm already selling this, he might say, yeah, mine is more popular, it is getting popular. All the people here are using this product only. You can keep my water bottles also with the other. I'm not saying don't keep other one, you can keep that one also. But why don't you take some quantity of mine? So 12 bottles of the previous one, you'll say, okay, why don't you take only 6? Take only 6. I don't want you to take 12. So you will only find that people ask for my bottles, okay, my water bottles. Then you yourself will come and ask me one dozen, and you will reduce his. So he will be confident about his product. So again, he will place his product and he'll go. Okay, so there might you might have seen 2 to 3 different kinds of water bottles again, not only one. In few places it is there. Many people they say, okay, I already have, I don't want more now because it takes more of space. Okay, the people who have space, they will have multiple bottles also. If you have observed, okay. So this is retailer or reseller inventory. Then issues in multiple location inventory. Now we came to issues. We just saw why we need to have multiple locations. Now we are into issues in multi location inventory. What issues? You have to maintain stock counts for more than a single warehouse. So here I don't know like how many like how many quantity of one product is available in one of the warehouse and in another warehouse. So it may so happen that the demand is there, but you are not aware that it is available in one more warehouse. Okay, so to maintain stock count, it would be a bit difficult. Then management of communication between warehouse is an issue in itself. Why? Communication between warehouses. Employees are much more likely to miscommunicate when they are not working in the same location. In the sense, if a person is responsible for taking care of these particular things, so as a owner, I'll call him, that particular person. Just tell me how many units of this particular product are there with me. Okay, if he is not there in the unit, okay, he may just give a number, a rounded off number, okay, and not the exact number. Or he may ask the particular person to wait. He will call the person again responsible for that particular unit, and he'll ask, okay, how many quantities are left of this particular product. He has to do it for multiple places. He will add it and he will give it, give the number stating that in all the locations combined and we are having this much of quantity. Okay, it is very difficult. So what usually people do is they'll give a particular number what they think is there. Okay, so that is what is miscommunication. So by thinking that exactly those many are available, you have a deal with somebody, and when you go and check, so you are in short of few products, okay, few numbers of products. So this might happen. So this is the uh, communication issue or miscommunication between workers who are basically not working in the same location. Then it can lead to bottlenecks in both manufacturing processes as well as managing orders. Okay, what are bottlenecks? So if you see a bottle, not the present bottle, you can look at a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi bottle. So the place where you hold just after your cap, so it is called as a bottleneck. So similarly, just after your head, you are having a neck. So for a bottleneck. So what is a bottleneck? Many of you might be knowing it, but still, in general, I'll explain what's a bottleneck. So bottleneck in the sense, so there are many products which are coming, okay, many products that are coming, but due to one product, okay, due to one small part of a particular product, if it is not coming, the entire production stops. Okay, like one more example is there are two machines which are having 2 hours each. Okay, they are taking 2 hours each of production. There is a one more machine which take 5 hours. So there is a process of manufacturing, you know. So after one machine, it has to go to the one more machine. Here it is 2 hours and there it is 5 hours. So there are two machines and there is only one machine. So we are creating a bottleneck here. So what is this bottleneck? So after 2 hours, one product from each machine is coming out. Okay, it has to be stored somewhere. Okay, and the other one is taking 5 hours. That means what is happening for one product to complete in that particular machine which takes 5 hours, there is a whole line of products that are waiting behind. Okay, so around 4 to 5 products are waiting until only one product is completed in this particular machine. So this is called as a bottleneck. Okay, there are many places, from many places the things are coming, and due to one small thing it is being stopped over there. So similarly in a bottleneck, if you see the mouth of the bottle, the opening of the bottle is small and the base is bigger. So as and when you want to pour the water or whatever, like Coca-Cola or something, you want to pour it out, what happens? You might have seen because of the air which is not going in and out, you might have seen that tuk 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 sound which falls like while falling. Okay, why is this happening? Because of the bottleneck. So the whole of liquid which is there at the bottom tries to come out, but enough space is not available. So this tries to push itself in that small area. So that's why these issues happen. So similarly, that is why by saying that we call them as bottlenecks. So in the behind of something, there is a lot of concentration of that thing, but it is not able to complete because of a small opening. Just as an example, like in that machine, 5 hours it is taking lot. So what you should have done, you should have put only one machine of 2 hours, and you should have put two machines of 5 hours. So in this case, or three machines of 5 hours. So in this case, what happens? So smooth movement will happen. So there will be not of much of semi-finished goods which has to be kept. Okay, again that is called as a inventory. The inventory even has semi-finished goods. Okay, raw materials, goods in progress we call, or semi-finished goods, and finished goods. So even this has an inventory. So here, to avoid the bottlenecks, so that's why it says it can lead to bottlenecks in both manufacturing processes as well as managing orders. In the sense there is availability of the product in many places, but the source or the person who wants the product are in very limited quantity. So it can create a bottleneck over there. Okay. then it gets difficult if you are also manufacturing in multiple locations and need to manage material inventory at the same place. So as I explained earlier, so many multiple places where you are manufacturing, and you need to supply, okay, to many what do you call, manufacturing units from many different places. Okay, from one place also it is difficult, but it would be manifold difficult getting products from different warehouses. Okay, because of the many reasons, like uh, some warehouse is far away and some is near, transportation, okay, infrastructure like roads and other facilities. Okay, so all these things make some issues of having multiple locations of inventory. So these are some of the issues of having multi-location inventory. We saw why, we saw issue. Coming to the next one, managing inventory management at multiple locations. What are these multiple locations? Okay, we already know having my products in multiple places. This is multiple locations. So managing inventory. How can we manage? Adopt multi-location inventory management system. Use softwares. Okay, use softwares where how much quantity is coming in, how much quantity is going out. We need to monitor, and it has to be centrally uploaded. If I am the owner, I am having multiple units. I can just open and I can check what is the total number of units of a particular product and how many units are in which warehouse. So this makes my life very, very, very easy. So I will be exactly knowing how many products are there, how many have come in, how many have gone out, and how many exactly are available in each particular warehouse. So adopt multi-location inventory management system. Basically software driven, okay, where the same software is installed in all the warehouses, where the data is going into one central unit where I can directly go to that unit and check so how much of inventory is available with me. Then locate warehouses artfully in the sense you need to have warehouses very near to each other. Okay, why? You are reducing transportation cost. If you are getting materials for one warehouse, you can get the material in the same consignment for the next warehouse, and you need not travel a very large distance. Okay, to again give or send a different truck over there. So you can get the same in the same truck if you had to supply in two different warehouses or get products from two different warehouses, just not to keep to get it also, it will be very helpful. So locate warehouses artfully. So there should be a connection between each. So first I'll go here, then I'll go here. So I have to route map also. I have to map the routes also, how it has to go, and it has to reach the manufacturing plant if I am getting something. Or if I am keeping the inventory, finished goods from the manufacturing plant to the warehouse, it might also happen. So I have to travel a certain distance. I have to go to this warehouse, dump so much, move to the next one, dump, move to the next one, dump, and come back to the warehouse. So we need to locate warehouses artfully. Next, plan for the demand. So I'll not explain much because last two classes we have seen planning for demand only. Okay, like how demand increases, how demand decreases, the warehouse, how to plan. So this is what is the plan for the demand, like forecasting. Even I explained like forecasting based on the previous data. Okay, so this is plan for demand. Next is optimize warehouse layout. So just not having a place will help you. Okay, we need to have a layout. So where what product has to be kept, whether it can be kept on top of each other or no. Okay, whether it can be compartmentalized. Okay, or it has to kept on the ground itself. So if it is like can be stacked one above the other, we can keep more products in the less space. So if it needs only on the ground, it will take a hell a lot of space. So we need to optimize the layout. So there are different layouts. Okay, so there are different layouts in retail. We basically study those. Okay, like if you go to a particular supermarket like DMart or Big Bazaar or somewhere, if you go, things are arranged in a certain manner. Okay, it's not just haphazardly they are keeping it. There is a particular way in which they keep it. Okay, so this is optimization. A particular layout is made. Okay, and products are kept accordingly. So it's not like if you want like sugar, it will be very near to the products like the things sugar you use, where you use sugar, like tea powder, okay, or coffee powder, are kept very near to this particular sugar where you are having like where you are keeping sugar. And again, like where all other places sugar is used, so those products are also kept very near. Just example, I gave you tea and coffee. So you could use different sugar could be used in different places also, like wherever it is being used, those products are kept very nearby. So when you go there, okay, I have taken sugar, next is what, so you remember tea or coffee. So if you had to buy it, it needs to be very near to it. You cannot go whole place to buy get some tea, only a tea over there. So you go there, you get it, suddenly you remember next what with respect to tea, what you require. Okay, something that you remember, again you have to go somewhere else. That will not be the case. So there will be a set layout and set procedure to keep all the products. Okay, so you might, as a customer, when you go, you might not have thought of all these things. But if you want to open a store, you need to think all of these things. Okay, so where what has to be kept. Okay, so like rice or all the food grains, they are kept at one place. Okay, and it is near to what? Okay, I had explained like in building counters, you see chocolates, you see matchbox, you see small uh, products where small kids like. Okay, basically why? Because when you take a small kid and wait in a line, you will be looking here and there, and you want something. Not only him, even you need some things like, for example, chewing gum or chocolates or something, pins. Okay, then clutches. So all these things like perfume, they are kept very near to the billing counter. Why? As and when you are waiting to for your turn, you are looking here and there, and you want to buy that also. So many times this happens. You buy additional things because you are looking at it and you got interested and you wanted to buy it just for that. Okay, this is the optimization of warehouse layout. Then set safety stock. Safety stock in the sense, even in a godown or a manufacturing plant. So if you want to have certain inventory with you, there is something called as replenishment. So as and when the products are consumed, you need to replenish it. You need to put it back. So for this, there is a particular set uh, point. Like for example, if you need 100, okay, 100 quantity of something, you are having 100 in your warehouse. Okay, so suddenly when it reaches 20, okay, you will put an order. So you will put like come up with this particular number based on the lead time. If I put a order now, how much time it takes basically to reach my plant, plus how much quantity is required in that lead time. So at least that should be there with me. Otherwise, what happens if you make it zero till the product comes? The people who are like working, the machines and all should be idle because the product is the material is not there with me. So it is called as a safety stock. So until I get the new stock for replenishment, my production should not stop that much. Before that particular quantity only, I need to put an order. So this can be done by softwares also, like checking the lead time and how much quantity I use per day or per week or per month. Based on this, okay, the computer only you can program it to have an order directly. Okay, as and when a particular product reaches below a certain quantity, the order is put directly from the software itself. So this is called as set safety stock. So these all things will help you. Okay, so suddenly you may not be aware of a particular product going down, the number of that particular product going down. Okay, if you are not having this safety stock concept. Okay, and there is a order that comes and you are not having that particular product with you. Suddenly you are losing an opportunity. So this is what is managing inventory management at multiple locations. Okay, so for optimize warehouse layout, okay, to optimize warehouse layout, so I want to give you an example. Okay, so this is IKEA, IKEA. So many of you might know, and some of you may not be knowing this. So it is trying to enter India. In future, it may come in India also. So what they do? They are basically focusing on home furnishings. You can see here, home furnishings, IKEA, IKEA. IKEA. This is home furnishings. They are basically uh, providing tables, chairs, beds, all things, furnitures. Okay, home furnishings. Furnitures are basically sold by this IKEA. So what happens in IKEA? If you see, if you get inside the store, it looks like this, something like this, where you are getting all the sofa sets, tables, chairs, okay, wardrobes, and all other things, different kinds of chairs and all. If you see here, you can see. Okay, this is one of the sections where you can go here and see all these things and feel, see, touch. Okay, sit on it. You can do whatever you want. Okay, then there is a particular number given for each and every product here. There is a particular number you can see. I don't know whether you can see it or not. There is a particular number. There is a board here. Some numbers are there. There is a board here. Some numbers are there. Different boards are there. Some numbers are there. Why is this? So if you want to buy this, you cannot directly take it from here. This is just for display. Okay, these many products are just there just for display. Okay, so you have to take that number, you have to go to the counter and you have to tell that number, I want this particular product of this particular number. Okay, so some coding is done by those particular people in IKEA. You go to the counter and you say, I am interested in this. Okay, when you say this, they will not directly give you the product. Okay, I'll just show you. The products are kept like this. So this is their warehouse. Okay, you can say it as store only. So in the store they are having so much. So there are multiple quantities. You can see same product is there, multiple boxes are there. Okay, so the what do you call it? The process of IKEA is completely different. Hatke, we can call it as hatke. In the sense they'll not provide you the finished product. They will provide you all the parts of the product and they involve you, the customer. They involve the customer. The customer has to go and assemble this in his home. Okay, so a certain product, you need a particular sofa, and you can see this particular square box. They'll give you this. You need to go home, you need to open it. What all things require, like for example, nuts, bolts, and all, everything is given to you. Hammer and all you need to manage. Hammer, the screwdrivers, and whatever additional things you need to manage. Whatever is required, like the nuts, bolts, upholsteries, everything is kept over in this particular box. You need to go home, you need to open this box, you need to assemble your product. Okay, this is the business model of IKEA. So this is something which is unique. Okay, when we go somewhere, we need a finished product. But that's why I showed you the store inside looks like this. I gave you the example. Yeah, it looks like this. From outside, it looks like this. So if you have seen the Reliance Mart, DMart, and all, they look like this. Okay, when you go inside, the look is like this. If you want to buy it, it looks something like this. Okay, when you buy it, if you are looking for a particular small chair, okay, it comes in small box like this. All the parts are there. Go home, open the box, assemble yourself. Okay, this is what is the uh, how this particular people work. This is something hatke, right? You have never heard. Those who were not aware of IKEA, they might be hearing this for the first time. Okay, that finished products are not available. The boxes are given to them. The customers have to go home, open it, assemble for themselves. Okay, so this is a unique way of selling the product. So in this case, you can see this is a kind of a warehouse how they have kept. Okay, so such big what do you call this, racks or sections have been made, and they have kept up till this top. See the people here, height of the people. You can just see some 5 to 6 people. If they stand one above the other, then they'll reach the roof. So till that height they have kept. Okay, and there will be what do you call it? Uh, hydraulic run systems or pneumatic run systems where they will take you to this particular place. You can get it down and you can transport it. Okay, so that facility is available. So if something is smaller thing is there, so these are the people. These people are not the customers. These people are the employees. So when you add this, there is a counter here at the end. When you give that particular number, it will be given to one of the people here. They will come, they will get it, and they'll bring it to this particular place. You need to pay your bills. You need to get your product. Go home, open it, assemble, and use it. That's how this particular thing works. IKEA. So this is a unique model. Just I thought to give you as an example of optimized warehouse layout. Okay, in the sense only one product I can keep here for display. Then other things I'm just keeping it in this particular format, which means I'm saving a lot of space, as well as I can stack them up like this. Okay, many products I can keep in a small place, and even I am engaging the customer in. It is kind of a fun. People take it in kind of a fun that they are building their own furnitures. Okay, not everything a small part. They're just assembling it, but there's a kind of happiness that it gives to the customer, stating that yes, I am making my own furniture. Okay, it is as small as just assembling it, but still you feel happy. So that's how IKEA works, and it's a very big deal in US and other places where many people go to IKEA and buy products. Okay, so this is how it works. Then pricing and revenue management is there. So okay, so we'll see this in the next class. So before this, I just want to focus on one thing. Okay, so okay, here I want to show you a small ad here. So what had happened, then we'll go over there. So it was opened it for you directly. Yeah, so you can check this out. So what has happened, this is a recent thing that has happened, many of you might be knowing it, those who are fans of football and know Ronaldo and all. So you can just go through this, what happened here. I'll just explain, observe. Okay, so this was what you had to see. So what happened here is, there's a press conference, after and before every match, even in cricket and all, you might have seen Kohli or any representative of the team comes there, and the coach would also be there. They will speak. Okay, see the sponsors behind here. Okay, Qatar Airlines, Vivo, Volkswagen, FedEx. So similarly, there was one more sponsor who had kept their bottles here. You can see Coca-Cola here. So in front of everybody. But what did this person? He is Ronaldo. You know it is in UEFA Euro 2020. So what happened here? So as and when he came here, in front of him there were two bottles of Coca-Cola. He slid them out and he showed water bottle. So there are so many fans of Ronaldo in the world. So what happened? Just by doing this, he did not do anything. He just slid two bottles of Coca-Cola. He showed the water and he kept it. Okay, as a sports person, he needs to maintain his body. So he will avoid all this carbonated water and all. Okay, carbonated drinks. Coca-Cola is one of the carbonated drink. Okay, so he has pushed it aside. He showed the water bottle. So what happened just by this? I'll show you what happened. Just by doing that, this happened. Coca-Cola was down in just 1 hour. In just 1 hour, Coca-Cola was down by 1.6%. So 255.23. Okay, say it was somewhere around 56 or so, $56. I'm talking about the share price of Coca-Cola in US. Okay, what happened? Coca-Cola went down by 1.6%. You can say just 1.6%. What is that? Okay, so it was somewhere around $56 something cents. In an hour, it fell to 55.23. So what was it? Which translated into a $4 billion loss. So you could have just said, okay, 1.6%. So what is 1.6% for Coca-Cola? It is $4 billion. $4 billion loss in stock worth for the Coca-Cola company. So just how many seconds you saw it? 2 to 3 seconds. You just saw that a person came, he slid the Coca-Cola bottle, he showed water bottle. That's all, finished. So what happened? Suddenly the stock price of Coca-Cola fell in just 3 or 4 seconds of what he did in just 1 hour. This fell. Okay, and there was a loss of $4 billion. It's not $4, $400, 4,000. 4 billion. $4 billion was the loss to Coca-Cola company just by making it like 3 or 4 seconds of what a person did. So many fans are there of Ronaldo. Okay, in the world. So it was like it was a big issue basically. Okay, so I don't want to go much into it. So why I'm showing this is how people take each and every small cue of a person whom they feel is very important. Okay, so if this happens again, there will be a very big issue in supply chain. So in the previous classes, I might have told you. So Coca-Cola is having one of the best supply chain. Okay, in especially in India at least. So I told you, like in villages you might not find electricity or banks or post offices, but you find people selling Coca-Cola there. Coca-Cola has reached such a, like, in the nooks and corners of the country in India. So just imagine how much of effect it could have, just a person sliding their product and showing water bottle. Just imagine, 4 billion loss, $4 billion. So that is what I wanted to tell you. Then one more thing, like Coca-Cola had a intention of replacing water. So in US and all, in not only US, in India also, if you see when you go to McDonald's or any franchisee like this KFC and all, so with a particular product that you buy, burger or whatever the eateries that you buy, usually there is a trend of buying Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or Sprite or something. So this is what was the culture they wanted to bring. They wanted to replace water with Coca-Cola. Okay, so that was the intention. So when you go to have something in US and all, they usually ask you for a soft drink and not water. Okay, people usually drink a particular soft drink. Hopefully, it is a Coca-Cola only. It is very big brand all over the world. So they had the intention of replacing water with Coca-Cola. So that's why it was like he told, like, okay, I don't want Coca-Cola, I drink water. Like this. He showed that particular bottle, right? So that was the, like, connection of what was done. So why he did that? So he slid and he showed water, because it was said that earlier they had the intention of replacing water with Coca-Cola, and it is like drinking more Coca-Cola, it might not be good for your health, but people, they want to sell their products, they show whatever they want. So this has happened. Then if you see in India, one of the companies have taken an advantage of this. So you can see here what happened. So again, a press conference kind of thing is there. There are so many sponsors behind. They have blurred them. Okay, and they have put Fevicol here. So two bottles of Fevicol. This is kind of a mocking thing which happened. Yesterday night I came across this particular picture. Okay, Fevicol, ना bottle हटेगी ना valuation घटेगी. So just what happened? You had to know this. So this was a valuation which came down by 1.6%. So that's why they are putting here, now bottle हटेगा ना valuation घटेगी, because there is no replacement of Fevicol in India. I think I might have given you this particular example of monopoly, Pidilite. Okay, so this particular Fevicol, the parent company is Pidilite. So this is just a product. Fevicol is just a product which is an adhesive. So that's why they are saying na bottle hategi, na valuation ghatega. Okay. So this is what, with this particular thing I want to end this particular class. Okay. So this was the recent thing that happened. Many of you might be knowing that, and this they might not be knowing. So this is something funny where people can use something that has happened, lost for someone. They could, like, use it in their advertisement. So this is what is the present thing. Yesterday nights. Okay, with this, I would like to stop the class. Okay, I hope you enjoyed with this last two things. Okay, so I would like to stop the class today, and we'll start like the last part, that is the pricing and revenue management. So we'll start this. This is the last part of module 4. So with this, we'll start with module 5 in the next class. Okay, students, bye. Take care. We'll meet in the next class.